So yesterday we were able to do something like this, and then we were following a model. Let me see, is it here? Let me be sure. Okay, let me just open it from here. Aha.
Hi, Gideon, please, sorry for interrupting you. Please, are you recording me?
Yes, I've started recording.
Okay.
Okay, let me zoom in. So from what we did yesterday, does anybody have any question before we proceed? Any question or any contribution? It could be a contribution also. At least let it be that we are all learning. Okay, so yesterday we started by looking at how we can easily structure our HTML file, right? By looking at all the elements on this page and then viewing them like items inside a container. So we did that and we were able to get something like this, right? That's why the fact we are still working on it. Yes, but we're able to get this where we have our logo by the left and we have these write-ups by the right. We also have our button get started by the right, and also these are our icons by the right. All right, so now today we'll be looking at how, number one, for our button now we need to structure it this way, right? To make it look this way, where you have a rounded edges, and then you have it colored green, right? So after that, for this template, this drop down, we will not be implementing it. That one I'll leave it for you people to go and handle it. And then we'll now handle this, the other section, which is our hero section. So that's another thing we'll be handling. So now, before we even touch that of the button, let's do some analysis. So I'll be asking some couple of questions, right? Now, we all did this together yesterday, where we mapped out the container. We say, okay, this is our navigation bar, and the navigation bar will be a container holding the logo by the left and these write-ups by the right. And then we say the write-ups, everything by the right will also have its own container, and then the write-ups here by the right will have their own container. The button too will be on its own, and then the icons too we have one container. So how I visualize it is more of, I have music, I have video, right? Now let's say my music, now I might have reggae, I might have rap, I might have gospel. So that's why the fact I already have a folder called music. I might say, I want to still organize it further so as to make it easy for me anytime I want to access a music. So I can now decide to share it into reggae. I will have another folder inside the music folder called reggae. I will have another one called rap, and I will have another one called gospel. So that I'll know if I want to listen to rap song, I know that okay, all my songs are inside the folder that called music. And then when I enter music, I know that I will have another folder called rap. So it's going to be easier for me. So that is just the goal of looking at items, anything you are working on, any page you are working on, viewing it in the lens of container and items. All right, where you group similar items together into the same container and stuffs like that. So it's for easy identification, and just like I said, it will be easier for you to style it to get exactly what you want when you come to apply your CSS styling on those HTML elements. So I believe we are on the same page. Okay. So now, looking at what we have here, we are done with our navigation bar, although we'll still touch some things, but at least we are done for now. So we are going to be looking at this hero section. So for this hero section now, who can help us? What do you think? How can we map our hero section? Just like the way we're able to map this navigation bar, how do you think we should map this hero section. So can somebody help us? I sound everybody is quiet. Eh? Okay. Nope. And go on, go on. Hope this is recording. Okay. Because there was one day like that, I was making one video of almost 20 minutes. It's after the video and I find out that it was not recording. It's as if I should cry. Okay. So I was thinking somebody wanted to say something.
Can you repeat the question again?
Okay, I was like, if you look at what we did yesterday, before we started building up our navigation, that's the HTML, we a kind of map the navigation into containers and then items inside the container, and then sub containers and then items inside those sub containers. So I was now asking that how can we do the same to this our hero section? How can we map this our hero section to, so that it will be easier for us when we come to the HTML part? Where is even that our code editor? Okay, this is the code editor, right? So let me bring it here. Okay, no, let me bring it here. So okay, so now if you look at just like what we did for this our navigation, we can say for this our hero section too, we have the whole of the hero section here as a container, right? Let me change the color to blue, so that at least the border is going to be different. And then let me give it a size of 10, right? So we'll have the container for the hero. Where is this thing? Okay. So we have the container for the hero section here, which is 1. Now if you observe on this hero section, now it's more like we have 2 different sections. The section by the right, which is the picture, the image itself. The section by the left, which comprise of course you all agree with me that this is a header, probably an H1, and then this is normal paragraph, and then you have another button here, and then you have a write up here, and then obviously these 3 are logos. This one is logo for slide, logo for Google, and then logo for Square. So you agree with me that inside of our hero container we are supposed to have 2 more containers, which is what? The container that will hold this image by the right, and the container that will hold all these write-ups by the left. So if we are to map it, we are going to have something like this, a container here, and also another container that will hold the write-ups here. So here now, looking at what we have, I think we have settled for this one by the right, because we might not get all this kind of image, just one image. We might just decide to put just one single image. So but if we come to the container by the left, you'll find out that it comprises of different category of text. Now we can decide to say this one is one item, this one is another item, this one is another item, this one is a write-up, and then finally these ones another group of items. So for this logo, this Slack, Google and Square, we can decide to group them inside their own container. So we now have inside our container, we have each of these images, or each of this icon, or each of this logo. So looking at what we have here now, do you think this is the best way to group all of these items, or does anybody feel there's a better way of doing it? Like, so let's look at it. Can we have a better way of doing it, or how do you think we should go about it. Because just like I say, when we started yesterday, there's no really one way of doing something when it comes to programming. Yeah, there's no one way of doing the same thing. So does anybody have like maybe a counter method? You feel, no, let's group it this way instead of this way? So anybody? This everybody just keep quiet like this. Okay, I think say na my network don't disconnect too. so if people are telling me that you all agree, like let's go with this. Is that what you're all saying? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, somebody gone. I think somebody is raising their hand. Okay. Okay.
Let me see the screen.
Okay.
Bring your screen.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. So, I'm suggesting we should first of all section everything together. Then inside the section, we can divide the write-up, the H2 tag, and all the write-up. We divide them. Then from the logos, I be the image, we have the slab, the goggle, and the square. We can as well divide them so that it will be easier for us to give them an ID, so that we can easily work on them while we are applying our CSS.
Okay.
Wait till my this thing they need to.
No, it did talk like. So, do we agree with that? Anybody else? Okay. So, let's move forward with what we have. So I believe what Mr. Friday is trying to say is basically what we have here. All right. So okay. Okay. So let's look at, now we have a whole container for the hero section, but just like I said yesterday, that we don't have a tag called hero. All right. Of course, everything here, this is the nav that we just finished. So hero section comes immediately after the navigation. So that's why you see that we have to go outside of the navigation and start something new. Now we don't have a tag called hero, right? But since we don't have a tag called hero, from what we have here, we can easily give this hero a tag called section, because it's a section on its own, hero section. All right. So we can come to our code and then we'll give it a section, and then this section now, of course, we'll give it a class, because why? It will now become the hero container. That is what we house every other item that is supposed to be in our hero section. So we'll give it a class. Just like I say, always make sure you give it a descriptive class. So we'll name it hero container. Right? Now under this hero container, from what we have mapped out here, we say we have two other containers, which is this container by the left that house all these write-ups, logo, button, and the rest, and then another one by the right that house our image. So now, of course, obviously the image I want us to use in this class, but probably in your personal study you can freestyle it. You can decide to bring in a background, and then on top of the background you add the image. Well, me, I'll just use an image straight up, so that we'll not have to spend too much time. I know people want to rest. So now, coming back to our code, it means inside of our hero container itself, we have, remember what I explained for your HTML. Despite the fact we work, if you look at our code, we are working from top to bottom, but in this our page, we'll be visualizing it in terms of from left to right. So what we have on the left is that of the write-up, then what we have on the right is that of the image. So in our HTML, we definitely have to start with this write-up. So let's go back to our code, and then for this one, for the write-up, we can give it a div, a division. All right, so this division now is going to carry the one that will carry our write-up, then followed by the next one, which is the one that will be on the right, will now be our image. Just like I said, me, I'm going to just use a single image. So I don't know. You people can freestyle it. I saw some people's work, and then the image they use, like, it was giving me that kind of programmer vibes, like very sweet image. But me, I'll just use a normal image. So now, in this our left section, that's the section that's supposed to carry our text, we have, if you look at this text, this is definitely an H1. Help your business reach new levels. From the way it is, you know that, okay, this is an H1. Now the next one that follows our H1 is what? Is our paragraph. So let's go. This one, this is the container for our, in fact, let's give it a class before we proceed. So let's say class, let's call it left, is the one by the left now. So let's say left hero item container. This name is long, this name is long, but anyways, let's leave it like that. And then inside of it, we say we have an H1, right? If you look at it, this is definitely an H1 here. Help your business reach new levels. So here in this H1, we are going to put help your business reach new levels. I don't know if there's a full stop. Okay, no full stop. Now immediately after this H1, you find out that we also have another text, but this text is not as big as this. So you know that, okay, this is a normal paragraph text. All right, so let me see if I can copy. Okay, no, let me go to the image itself and see if I can copy the right thing here. Yes, I think I can. So I'll come here. Immediately after our H1, we are going to have our paragraph. So in the paragraph, we are going to have this. Now if you observe, right, you find out that, sorry, so if you observe properly, you find out that this our paragraph, it has break in various places. Okay, before we even do that, let us load our file. Now you can see what we have here. Help your business reach new levels, and this. We'll still come back to this. Now next, okay, our paragraph, yes, this is the paragraph text. Now the next one, we have our button, which is learn more. So we'll go back to our code, and then the third item after the paragraph is button. And then the button says what did the button say? Okay, learn more. So we have learn more, right? So let's see. Yes. And then the next one, we now have a text also here called add. Let me reduce this one a bit so that we're going to see it clearly. Yes, so we have add some cool logos. So now if you look at it, you find out that from the way they structure this, you see that this add some cool logos, and the logos itself, we can make them to become one. So we can have a container, another container that we house these two stuffs together here. So for these ones, we are going to create a container, right? That's immediately after our button, because it comes immediately after the button. So we can create a container, a div, and then in this div is going to have a paragraph text, which is this add some cool logos. So add some cool logos, right? Okay, I think there's a column after the logos. And then the next thing after our paragraph, we are going to now have the logos themselves, which is Slack, Google, Square. Of course, all of them are images. So we'll just come, and then we are going to have img. of course this one. Which one comes first? Okay, Slack, Google, and Square. So the first one we have Slack. Here we just repeat what we have here. Slack, Google, and then finally, sorry, my screen is small and nobody said anything. Google and Square. Okay, so let me see. I think our structure, we now have the skeleton of this particular thing. So this image too, let me just give it an alt. So let me just say what are we even building? Business abi. So let me just name the image by the right. Let me say business. Let me just name it business. So why are we having this? Okay. So now, any question from what we have done so far, from how we structured everything, how we arranged it, and how we put the element together? So any question? Any question? This one, everybody is quiet, or is it my network? Okay, index. So this is it. So any question before we start importing? Because we need to first import our images. Let's even see how big the images are, the width, the height, resize them, and then before we start applying our CSS. So any question before we move forward? Okay, no question. That's great. So I'm going to bring, I think I have Slack, Google, Square, and then a business picture I downloaded. So let me try and trace it and trace the pictures. I'm not really sure, but let me see. Okay, no. Okay, let me go to desktop. Sorry. Okay, this, and then is it here? Yeah, good. So I have Google here, and then Slack, and then Square, and then I'll just use this business image. So I'm going to copy these images, and then I'll come to this is our code that we are writing, and paste it here. Good. So now we are going to now add, for this our Slack now, obviously we have talked about to source image, where I say either you use absolute path or relative path. So I'm going to use relative path dot slash, more like telling it in this particular location where I am. So Slack, where is Slack, or this Slack logo, and then the next one is for Google dot slash, and then where is Google? Yes, this Google logo, and then the next one dot slash this Square logo. Yes, and then for this business too, I'll do dot slash, and then I'll look for, okay, this is business image. So let's go and see what do we have. So we can see Slack, Google, Square, and then our business picture. So do you remember what we need to do? Because if you look at what we have here, our target, this is our target. Look at how small they are here. But coming back to what we are doing now, or what we have now on our screen, you can see that the logos are very huge. So who can tell us what can we do to resize our logo? Can somebody just help us? I think we did something like this yesterday for this main logo where it was big, and then we needed to do one or two things to now make it look as small as it's looking right now. So who can help us? What did we do?
You put in the width and height attributes.
Okay. So put in the width and height attribute. So I love that. So for the width, like what do you do? The width, like how much should it be? Mm. So let's say width. We know that for all the logos, definitely it should be longer. That it should have more width than height. So let's try. Let's start with 20 for the width, or let me say 30, and then for the height, let's start with like 10. So let's first see for Slack. Okay, so you can see now, of course, but based on what we have here is too small compared to our target here in this what we are having here. So let's go back to our code. So instead of 30, let's make it like 80 for the width, and then the height, let's make it like, should I say 40 or 30? 30, and then let's see. Okay, so I think it's better now, but do we need to increase it again? So what do you guys think? Is it okay? Should we increase it a bit, or should we leave it the way it is? Okay, nobody's saying anything, so let's leave it the way it is. So I'm going to copy these two attributes, that's the width and the height attribute. I'll copy it and then I'll paste it for the others, or add it to the others. So let's see what we have. Okay, Slack, Google, and Square. So I think it's quite fair. It's fair. So for this our image too, our normal image, let's also resize it. That's our business image. So let's give it a width of, let's say probably 200, and then a height of, let's say 500. Let's see what we are going to have. Okay, I think it's good, but it's looking distorted. So for that, let's give it a width of 400, right? Let's see. Okay, I think it's looking more or less normal now. Yeah, I think it's normal now. Good. So now our goal is to have something like this, right up by the left, picture by the right. But what we have now is more like everything is going from top of the hero to down, right? We are not having side by side, instead we are having from top to the bottom. So who can help us? What next should we do, or what are we supposed to do to make the content, the write-ups, to stay by the left, and then make the image to stay by the right? So anybody? Okay, Felix, you wanted to say something? Please go on.
I don't know, but seems that day we use aside abi. I think aside kind of. I don't know if that will work, yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
okay. So is it aside like in the HTML or in the CSS, or?
I think it will be the CSS. I don't even know, honestly. That's just
Okay,
it. But
okay,
I just remember that command like aside, kind of.
okay. So who remember what we did yesterday? You know what we did yesterday, right? When we started building this our navigation bar. Remember that before we styled it, before we started adding our CSS styling, all the everything we are seeing here in this our navigation bar, everything was on the same line from top to bottom, until when we now did something in our CSS, like we added CSS and did something in our CSS. That was when two of them now became one was at the left, the other now was on by the right. So can somebody help us? Like, what did we do?
Okay, maybe I might be wrong, but let me just try to make the class interactive. So we have put them in a container, right?
Yes.
So I think you did display, then flex,
All right. Nice.
then align, center.
Okay.
Then for the other container again
Yes.
that you're supposed to shift to the right, you now did display then flex.
Okay.
I don't know, I might be wrong.
Okay. I love that. Okay. Thank you for that. Nice. Please, you should be speaking out too, eh? You should be speaking out. So thank you for that. So if you look at what we did yesterday, from our HTML, where is it? Okay, these are HTML file, right? You find out that we grouped everything inside the same container, right? That's look at itself, hero container. We gave it a class called hero container. Now this hero container contains this div here. This div here is audio write-ups that is by the left, and then we now have our image, which will be by the right. So now in our CSS, what we have to do, or what we need to do, is to target this container that is carrying both of these items. Where is our file? Is to target this container here, the one holding these items by the right, which is the image, and these items by the left, which is the write-ups. So we'll go back to, and if you look at it, this is actually the container here, where we gave it a class of hero container. Inside we have this to the left, which is the write-ups, and then image to the right. So we'll go to our CSS file. Where is it? Okay, yeah, style.css, and then we'll target the class. Now to target a class, you have to start it with dot, and then we have hero dash container, right? And then in our hero dot container, we have to give it a display of what? A display called flex. So immediately you give it a display of flex. Let's look at what we have now. Now you can see we now have the image by the right, and then our write-up by the left. Beautiful. Now let me ask another question, right? You remember when we were working on the navigation bar yesterday? Even after we applied our display flex, you agree with me that all the items were together, like everything was just jam-packed together, both the logo and these write-ups, until we now did something. It was after we now did that thing, then we now had space in between what is supposed to be by the left and what is also supposed to be by the right. So can anybody remind us, like, what did we do? There's something in CSS that we added that made it possible. So what did we add? Can another person, apart from Zini, at least have tried? So what did we do? Let me come back. Let me give you people expo. Let me just open the CSS file and leave it. So what did we do? Everybody is quiet. Okay. So if you remembered, after doing everything, we now had to add spacing between the items. And then how did we add that space? We use a property called justify content. So we said justify content, and then we gave it a value of space between, right? So if we go back now and then let's see what we have. Yes, hero container justify item space between. So let's see. So did it work? No, it did not work as expected. So what is now wrong? Why didn't it work? So now in a situation where you are applying a CSS property, you are sure that okay, I applied it in this place, it worked. So now that I'm about to apply it here, it's supposed to work, and probably you applied it just like we did here and it did not work. Now the first thing you want to do is to inspect. All right, that's more like debugging your HTML. So it's to inspect to know what is happening, why didn't it work. All right, so if you look at this one now, this particular paragraph, you'll find out that it's taking the entire space. All right, so probably even if there's supposed to be a space like this, because if you look at this one now, this logo is not taking the entire space. Look at it, it's just on its own here. This template is not taking the entire space. This is the region is occupying. This documentation too is not taking the entire space. This is the region is occupying. This is the content. That's content is simply the area where the element itself is occupying. The same thing with support, the same thing with our button, get started, the same thing with this our icon, globe, and search. But coming to this now, you can see our h1 is taking the entire space. Unlike template, look at where template is. Look at the region of template. It's just here. But looking at this h1, you find out that it extends even beyond where the letter stop. The letter stop here, S. Unlike templates that it starts from T and stop at S. This h1 is not the same. Also, our paragraph too is not the same with our paragraph. So the number one thing I want you to observe from what we have here on this our page is that you agree with me that this header and the paragraph too, they broke them down into several lines. So after help your business, the next one, which is reach new levels, is on a new line. This one, after vertical blah 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 transform, you have another line. If you go again after buy, you have another line. If you go again after for, you also have another line. So we can decide to break our text just like how they did theirs here. So to break a text in HTML, can somebody help me? What do you think we can use to break a text? Let's say a text that is going, you want to now move it by force to the next line. So which element do you use?
BR.
Okay.
Yeah.
BR.
Yeah.
I love that. So now it means after business here, we want to break it so that reach new levels will now be on the next line. So we'll come here to our text. After business, we'll just come and apply our BR here. So let's confirm and see if it worked. So did it work? Yes, it worked. But if you look at it, we are yet to solve our issue. We are still having this thing here. Okay, so no problem. Let's do it for the paragraph as well. So for the paragraph, we have after transform, after by, and after for, right? So transform, by, and for. So let's go back to our HTML. Let's see transform. So here we'll break it here. BR by. Is it care by or is just by? Okay, care by. Good. So by, we have another BR, and then the final break is at where is now our final break? For. Okay, customizable for. So let's look at customizable for. So we'll break it here too. So now we can see that we now have something that looks like this, right? You can see that we now have space in between or space between. So that is the reason why it's always good. The same style you apply for A, it worked. you're applying it for B and it's like it's not working, I'll be like you be like say this thing are magical, why the same thing I did for A is working and B is not working? So the best thing for you is just to come and inspect. So from your inspection you will now know what is really happening. Now you can see, because of the break we applied, you can see where this our text is occupying. Is only occupying this area here, just like how template here documentation 2 is. And you can see our h1 too. Our h1 is only occupying as much as the space our paragraph 2 is occupying. All right, so looking at what we have here, you agree with me that when we applied all of what we needed to apply for this navigation bar, you find out that at first everything by the right here, template, documentation, everything was at the top. It was not on the same line with this, the logo itself. So also, if you observe what we have here, let me take this thing down, you find out that this, what we have by the left, all these write-ups, is not in line with this our image here. In line, it simply means it's not at the middle. You look at it, it's looking somehow, it's not at the middle. That's number one. Number two, if you look at, there's a space between the edge here to where this logo is. The same thing with this one. All right, there's a space between where this icon is and where this edge is. So I want us to also style this hero section in such a way, we want this text here, this everything, all the text here, to also start on the same line with this logo, and this image too to start on the same line with this icon. So can somebody remind us, like, can anybody remember what we did yesterday? There was something we did that made it possible. So can somebody remind us, what did we do? Okay, so nobody wants to say anything. So if you remember yesterday, okay, go on. Thank God somebody wants to talk, so please go on. Let me open the code. Please, you can continue. Who want to contribute?
I guess it's something that has to do with the margin. I don't know.
Correct. So if you remember yesterday, where we talked briefly about content, padding, border, and also margin, right? Where we talked about content being the main area where that particular element is occupying, the padding being the size that once you add padding to it, it's more like it's going to increase the content area, and then the border, which comes on top of the padding, and then you also have the margin, which I say the margin is always the element with respect to the page itself. You understand? So after we did our space in between, you know that our logo here was at this extreme left, and all these write-ups by the right too, they were at this extreme right. So what did we now do? We now added margin, and the margin, we said that okay, we don't really need a margin at the top. So because when you are defining sorry, I was thinking this is so when you are defining, let me use this. So when you are defining element, the value of things like padding, margin, border, padding, margin, border, which one again? Okay, I think these are basically the three. So when defining their values, anytime you are using a single value, so let's say you are using a single value, like for instance 10 pixels, what you are saying is that it should apply 10 pixels to the top, to the right, to down, and then to left. Now it always work clockwise, starting from the top. Now anytime you are giving it two values, let's say give it 10 pixels and also another 10 or let's use a different value, 10 pixels, what you are doing here is that you are telling it that For top and bottom, take 10 pixels, and for right and left, take, is it 50 or 5? Okay, 50 pixels. So that is what you are literally saying. So where you have one value is for all. When you have two value, the first value is for top and bottom, the second value is for the right and left. When you are having three values, 10 pixels, let's say 30 pixels, and then another 10 pixels, this one, go and find out yourself. All right. And then finally, when you now have four, let's say 10 pixels, 20 pixels, another 10 pixels, and then let's say finally 5 pixels. When you have something like this, what it simply means that your top is going to be 10 pixels, your right is going to be 20 pixels, your down or bottom, sorry, instead of down, your bottom is going to be 10 pixels, and then finally your left is going to be 5 pixels. So just like I say, it always move clockwise, always starting from the top. So you have top, right, bottom, left. So that's how it works. So by giving our navigation a margin of 0 and 30, what we are simply saying is that for the top and bottom, we don't really need any margin, but then we need a margin of 30 pixels to be applied to the left and to the right. So if we come here, we also do the same. For this our hero, we want to achieve the same size as this logo from the edge to where this logo is, and also the same size for this image from this icon to the extreme end here. So here we define it to be 30 pixels. So we'll come here and add the margin. So we'll say margin of 0 for top and bottom, we don't need it, and then margin of 30 pixels for right and left. So let's see. Now, can you see that we now have almost the same? That's why the fact this one is looking like it's more inside than this. But if we inspect, let's inspect and see. If you inspect, you find out that the space this one is occupying, look at where it starts from, is the same place where this one too is starting from. Look at it. All right, it's just that this one is centralized inside the box, but this one is at the extreme left of the box. It's not centralized. All right. So before we continue, any question from what we have done so far? If anything you don't understand, anything you need more explanation, anything you need more clarity, so any question before we move forward? Or any contribution? It can be in terms of contribution too. It must not be always question and answer. It can be in form of contributions too. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is to make sure this left part, just like how we are seeing here, whether you agree with me or not, you find out that it's as though, yes, this one is bigger. We'll still come to the sizing part, but not now. So you find out that this one is more like position at the center of where this image is. This image is more like occupying this whole area, right? But the right top itself is not occupying the whole area. But if you observe, you find out that the right top is centered, is like it's positioned at the center of this picture. So for that, if you remember, we had the same challenge in our nav by yesterday, where after the whole thing, after defining it, we now have this right top at the extreme top, whereas our logo is not at the extreme top. Before we now did something, and then we now have everything on the same line. So if we go back to our styling, who can help us? Which property did we apply that yesterday that help us achieve where both the item by the left, which is the logo, and the items by the right, which are the write-ups, to be on the same center line. Okay. So anybody? Okay, nobody wants to say anything. Okay.
Align item.
Okay. Okay. Nice.
Yes, center.
Good. So now, in this container, just like we started, we explained everything. In this particular container, hero container, we have two different containers housing two different things, which is the image and then this one here. So of course you agree with me that both what we have here and both what you have here are items under the main hero container. So as such, there's a style or there's a property instead called align items, and this property, it has different properties, end, flex end, flex start, but you can go and experiment with them. But what we need here in this case is to give it a value of center. Why are we giving it as value of center? So that we can have this our write up at the center level with this one, so you can see what we have now. All right, so now I think we are now closer to what we are building than before, and obviously there are still some things we need to do, but at least we are now closer. So if you look at this one, you find out that this our header in this place is bigger than what we are having here. So obviously that will have to do with size, font size. We'll still come to that. That one will be applied using our CSS. And then if you also look at clearly, you find out that this paragraph, there's some space between each line. The spacing between each line is more than what we are having here, so we also deal with that. And also there's a space between the paragraph write up and the bottom, and also space between the bottom and these add cool logos. So we are going to start with this our header. Now we need the size of our header to be bigger than what it is here, so we'll go to our CSS, and then what we need to style is our header, because we only have one header element, which is our h1. All right, where is it, Seth? Okay, yes, this is it. So we'll go to our CSS and then target the header. So to target the header now, element, remember what we said yesterday, that to target an element directly, not class or id, just the element, you just need to indicate the element's name without adding anything. And then in this element, I think there's a property called font size, and this font size, let's give it larger and see. It's even looking smaller safe. So instead of larger, permit me to give it let me give it 300 pixels. So let's try 300 pixels and see. It's too big. So let's try 50. Hey, 300 is too big. Okay, I'm thinking this one too is a kind of big. Let's see what we have here. So is this one okay? Okay, let me tune it down to, let's say, 40. Yes. Okay, so I think this 40 is fair, looking at what we have here. Yeah, I'll say 40 is fair. So for the paragraph text, I don't even think we need to resize it. I think the size is quite okay. The only thing is the spacing, the inline spacing that we need to touch. But for the size, I think is okay. Yeah, yes, is okay. So now if you look at, there's a little bit of space between this header and the paragraph. So depending on what you want to do, right? If you come back to our code, our index.html, you find out that our h1, this is our h1 text, and this is our paragraph text. So to bring space between our header and our paragraph, in this case, we can decide to apply padding either to the header or padding to the paragraph. Now, because the goal is to give space, to bring in space, some level of space between the paragraph and the heading, if we are going to apply that space using the header, it means what we are going to be applying is padding bottom. So what padding bottom will do is that it will help us increase the distance between our header and our paragraph, but from the headers part. And if we decide to use our paragraph text to introduce that space, it means we'll be applying what they call padding top. So if we apply padding top, what is going to happen is that it's going to create more space for this paragraph at the top, and as a result of that, we are going to have space in between the paragraph itself and the H. So now, before we even apply our CSS, let's visualize something through our inspect. So let's go to our inspect, right? So let me see if I can, good, I can scroll up. So let me select our header first. Now we have our header here. Let's go to the box model of our header. Now you can see we have padding top, this right, bottom, left. So just like I explained, if we are to apply it to this header, because our goal is to have a space between the header and the paragraph, it means if we are to apply it from this header part, it's going to be the padding bottom. So this padding bottom, let's enter like 30 and see. So you can see that we're able to introduce space between this header and this paragraph. Now if we add padding top, it's not going to be useful in any way, because it's not as if we want to, there's anything here we are trying to space. So in this case, padding top will not be any useful to us. But what is going to be useful, so far it has to do with space between this and this, is definitely our padding bottom. Now if we decide to say no, we don't want to touch our header, let's just leave header, but let's touch our paragraph. So we'll come here, let's select the paragraph. Now this is for our paragraph. The goal is to space between paragraph and header. So from the paragraph point, to space it, we need to give it a padding top. So if we come here and then the padding top, we say like we give it something like 40, you can see that it's going to now leave space between the top of our paragraph to the bottom of our header. So that is one advantage of padding. So when you have two elements that are close together and you are trying to space those two elements apart, the most easiest thing to do is simply to give them a padding. So how you want to, the element you want to apply the padding to, it depends on you. And if you like, you can still decide to share it for them. For instance, I can come and say, okay, I want to give between this and this, I want to give it a space of 30. So for my paragraph, I'll just give it space of 15. So while for my header, the bottom, I will give it also a space of 15. So in that case, half is coming from H, half is also coming from P. So there's more than one way of achieving the same thing. It all depends on you, what you want at that particular point in time. So that's it. So before we continue and then give all the spacing, are there any questions, any contribution?
Gideon,
Yes, boss.
Alpha, good evening.
Evening. How you dey?
I do right.
Yeah.
That padding now,
Yes.
when you increase the padding now, it shifts it, either it's the top or the bottom, and it rearranges and give a little gap in between.
Yes.
If you increase the border now, what will happen?
Good. So let's increase the border. All right. Now, just like I said, explained before, I say what border does is that it adds to whatsoever is on the padding. If there is no padding, it will just add on the content itself. So let's go to inspect and then let's apply border. So let's select this our H1 and then let's go to the element. Now for border, remember we tried adding border yesterday directly and it did not work, right? Until I now told you guys that okay, for border, for anything border to work, you have to go and apply the border and make it like, it's more like you have to activate it on the element itself. So since the element we are looking at here is h1, we have to come here and add to it. So I hope I'll be able to edit this. Is it editable? Why is this thing like this today? So good, h1. So let's now add our border. So we have border, and then let's activate it by giving it solid. And that's the only way you can activate border. So now if you look at it, Emmanuel, if we come here, where is the border? So I'll remove this this top. Of course, it's the bottom that we are fighting. So this bottom now, let's give it a border of like 30. So you can see what is happening here, Emmanuel. You see that the border is being added immediately after the padding, because look at, we still have a padding of 15, which is this area here. So let's say okay, peradventure we don't even have padding of 15, there's no padding. You can see that we still have our border. So border always start from anywhere the padding stops. If there's no padding at all, it will start from where the content stop. And then in this case, to use border now, right, so that, because look at here, it's looking black. So in order for us to use border in this case in such a way people will not suspect that the space we gave in between is a border, what we'll just do is we'll now give it a color. We'll give it white, so that it will now match, obviously our background was white, right? So that the border will now match the color, because by default your border will be black, so that it's now going to match with the color of our background. So you can see that we still achieve the same thing we achieved with padding using border. So I don't know, Emmanuel, if that answers your question.
Okay, it answers it, because one time I tried to move something. I was trying to change the border and nothing was happening.
Okay.
So I don't want to know.
Yeah,
So you have to put it on solid first
good.
to activate it.
Yes, you have to put it on solid. And there are also different properties, right? There's solid, there's dash. Okay, let me remove this white so that it will be visible. So I think there's dash and dashed. So the dash, that's the one that is looking like, okay, there is one here, nothing here, another line here, nothing here, and all of that. So always make sure for your border to work, you have to make it solid or dash or any of this thing. So that's the only way to make it visible. So are we clear?
All right, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Good. So now let's go to our padding, our code, and then let's now activate. So from our CSS, going to this our h1, we can decide to give it a padding bottom. Now, just like how you can just use padding and use all these either single, double, triple, or quadruple. Is it quadruple they call it now for 4? You can also, instead, if it's 1 you want to apply, let's say it's just the bottom you want, you can just padding dash bottom. So in this case, let's give it like 20. I think 20 pixels should be fair. Yes. So you can see that we now have this space. So the next one is this our paragraph. Look, if you look at what we have here, there's more space between each line of this paragraph, but here we are having less space between them. So let's also try and give them more space and see. So for that, if we go to our code, what we will need to target is the paragraph. All right, sorry, is the paragraph. So let's see, what do we have in this paragraph? So instead of just styling p, because it's possible that probably we also have other p in our code, so that we'll not have to come and be scattering maybe what we apply to p, by the time we create another p, that same to be applicable to the p, whereas that's not what we want. So we can just create a class, and then we can name this one hero p. Yes, hero p or hero para or hero paragraph, in full, anyone. So we can name it hero paragraph or hero p. Let's just say hero p. So if we come to our CSS, let's now target hero p and see how we can now give that space that we are having. So for class now, to target a class, we have dot hero dash p, right? And then inside of this hero p, I think there's a property of text. Is it text or font? I can't really remember in this case. I shall know that there's property of either font or text that you can give it inline spacing. Can anybody remember? Okay, so let's do the life of a developer. Font or text property in CSS where we space in between lines of paragraph text. So let's see. So what? Good. This is exactly what I'm looking for. I've forgotten. So he said the CSS property used to control the spacing between lines of paragraph text is line height. So, and you can see the value normal, which is 1.2 times the font size. We also have, you can also use pixels to indicate and all of that. So either you use this normal one or you use pixels. So let's go back to our code. So as a programmer, make sure start getting comfortable with googling, because of a truth you will not remember everything. So just, I know some of you want to be abba, say abba dev, say even Google, I know they search everything they heard. No be like that too. So now let's do line height. Okay, and then line height, let's give it 2, right? So by giving it 2, let's see what we have. This 2 is too much. It's too much. Let's give it 1.5 and see. Okay, I think this is fair. Compare it with what we have here. I think this is fair. All right, so now we now have space between our paragraph. So the next one is we need space between our paragraph and then this our bottom. So now I can just look at it and feel I don't want to apply any style to my paragraph again. I want to apply all the remaining styles to my bottom. So, and I know that, okay, I need space between this paragraph and this button. I also need space between this button and what I have here. So I can decide to say, let me just give this button padding top and padding bottom, so as to just create space between this element here and also this element here. So going to our code, let's even first go to our index.html. We're having 2 buttons here. We're having one button in the navigation. Where is it? Which is this. We're having another button here in our hero section. So in order not to mix the styling up, for this button in the hero section, we can just give it a class and then name it hero btn. So that's more like the short form of button, right? So hero button. So we'll come and target style.css, right? And then because it's a class, we now have dot hero, right, dash btn, because that's what we want to target. Now we'll now give it padding. So remember what I said here. Now we can take advantage of our padding up and down, right? Top and bottom, which will be the first value, right and left, which will be the second value. So we can give it probably 20 pixels for top and bottom, and then 0 for left and right, because obviously we don't need any padding for left and right. So let's see what we have. Okay. So who can explain, who can tell us what just happened now? So what just happened now? So who can give us an explanation? When you see that the same thing we applied to H1 and paragraph, that there was space, we are now applying it to body. Instead of us to have space outside, we are now having space inside of the body. So who can explain? Like, just think about it. What do you think is happening now? Let me give you expo. Let's inspect.
Okay, let me try.
Okay, good. Try.
Okay, it means that the content of the button starts from the border that we are seeing,
Okay, okay, okay. Hmm. I love this.
and not just the text. It's actually the entire border of the button that is
Hmm.
the content.
I love
That's
this.
what I think.
I love this. So can we clap for him? Even if na mouth, use mouth clap for am. Even if your hand you dey use am chop food. Eh? Correct. So like he put it exactly the way it is. Now you know if you remember what we were saying, right? We say that you have your padding before your border. But your button element as it is by default, the content of your button is even a border, and that's why you can see that in this here, this your button, you see that there's a black line surrounding it. Even this one, if you check, you see that there's a black line surrounding. That black line is the border. So even if you add padding, your padding cannot go outside of your border. So that's why it will, what it's going to do is to just increase the size of the button itself. I don't know if you guys understand. That is exactly what it is. And if you want to really know, you can use your inspect and then inspect. Let's inspect the button, right, and see. So if we come here, we tap on it. So let's go to the box model of the button. So now you can see, are we the ones that put this border? When we created the button, did we add border to it? No, we did not add border. We just added button, and now is now having a border automatically of 2. You can now see where your padding is now being applied, because your padding can never be applied outside of your border. It will always be inside. So I don't know if we all understand what it is or how it is. One and no verse, no be say sabi English, na just one or two manage, just dey use am the whole body. Okay, so any other question? So that is why you see using your inspect this thing in your browser is very very important, because okay, of a truth, imagine that this is your first time of doing something like this. You apply padding to header and paragraph, the thing work. You are now applying it to button. You now see that instead of button to give space, is the button itself that is now growing big. And you know, you start thinking that, so let's say this computer na winch, let's say they get with the way. So it's not like that actually. All right. So for this now, what we need to do, so who can tell us if we can use padding to create those 2 space? What can we now use to create that space between this paragraph and this button, and also this other text here and this button? So can somebody help us? What do you think? If in this case we can't use padding, what other thing do you think we can use? So let me take this padding off. So anybody? Okay. So this is the image. This is the main image, right? This is it. And then this is where we are. Okay. So now, to me, I will tell you that let's try margin and see if it's going to even work. It's try, you know, there are sometimes that it's not as if you are sure of the result, right? But it's more like, okay, let's even try and see what is going to happen. Okay. Okay.
Um,
I'm coming. Okay.
show the image.
Just talk through mouth. I mute am. Just stop. Just stop.
Show the image.
Okay.
For the first illustration you gave us when you added padding to the H1 header, you say we can either add padding to the bottom of the header or we add padding to the top of the paragraph. Since padding did not work on the bottom, what if we add padding to the bottom of the paragraph that is closest to the bottom? Would it work?
Okay, so a very good question from my able roommate, right? So because he's also following, yeah. So yes, now if you look at it, if we are to go by that way, obviously it's going to work. Add for this our paragraph, we now say padding bottom. Yes, it will give us the space between this button, and then for this one also, these ones here, we can add padding top, and then we also have space. But me, I want us to try button first before we now go through that route. So now this button, the padding, the border have locked the padding, so padding is out of the question. Border in a way too is out of the question, because by the time we add border, it's just that this black that we have here will now become bigger, despite the fact yes it will create the space for us, but we still black will be seen unless we decide to remove it entirely and give it a color of white. So in that case now you agree with me that there will be space. All right, so let's even try the next one that we have. Border is not an option, padding is not an option. Now the only one I know we have left is margin. So let's even try the margin and see its behavior, how it's going to behave. All right, so here now we have margin. Of course the margin we want to apply is both top and bottom of the button. So and remember I told you that the first one will always be top and bottom, the second one right and left. So let's start with a margin of, let's say, 30 pixels, and then of course for right and left 0, right? So let's see. So did it work? So you can see that it worked. All right. So but just like I said, there are many ways of achieving the same thing. It all depends on what you want to do, and it depends on the mood you are in. There are sometimes that you might look at it and say, why will I waste my time? Let me just use paragraph padding top and bottom for paragraph, give it, then this one top too. So it all depends on what you want, the time of the day you are coding and all of that. It all depends on you. All right, so now is there any other thing we need to add here that we do not have in this our original? Is there anything? Where is the original one, Seth? Okay, this is the original one. So we'll still come back to this, like how to make our border, this shape it this way, and then make it bigger, make the button bigger, and then also the coloring, and we'll still get to that. But for now, let's deal with what we have here. So if you look at this one, you find out that this paragraph text here is a little bit smaller compared to the paragraph text here. If you look at here, it's almost the same thing. Both of them are the same size. But looking at it from this area, you find out that this one looks smaller than this. So obviously, we all know that we can achieve that by just reducing the size of the paragraph. And how are we going to do that? We'll do it using our CSS, right? So let's check our index.html. Let's even check the paragraph, this particular paragraph. So since there are many paragraphs, we don't want to just use paragraph and then mess up the whole thing. All right, so let's try something. Let's say class. God, sorry. So let's try something. I just want to show us how we can like specifically target the paragraph of a particular class or that belongs to a particular class, something of that nature. So let's give this one a class of, let's say, hero dash, should we say logos, right? Because all of them are logos, right? So this container is housing all the cool logos. So let's just say hero logos. That's the class. So now I don't want to just target P just like that, because by that I target P, anything applied to P will also affect the P here. If I have P also paragraph any other place in my code, it will also affect it. I just want it to affect just this one here, and then this paragraph is under the div container, And the div container has a class of hero logos. So remember what I said, that to target a class, what do you use? You use dot. But now we don't just want to target this class, we want to target the paragraph of this class. So there is a selector where you say the element of the class. Now what is the class? We say hero logos. Is it logo or logos self? Okay, it's logos. So hero logos, right? And then this hero logos, I think we have a property name called font size, and then let's give it medium. Yeah, let's use medium and see if it will give us what we want. So I'm going to close here, and then, so did it give us what we want? The size, I don't even know. The size is not even look like anything. So let's inspect and see. Let's even know if we are doing the right thing or not. So I'm going to inspect the element itself. That's the add some cool logos. So let's see. Our styling did not work. If it worked, it would have been showing here among this area. These styles, it would have appeared here. It's not showing. All right. So if that's the case, let's go back to our CSS. I know there's a way they combine. So let's Google search. Let Google help us out. So let's say how to select the paragraph inside of a container with a class in CSS. I know there's a way they do it, right? But let me be sure. Good. So this is how they do it. I think I flipped it the other way around. So the class will come first, then followed by the paragraph. So if we come back to what we have, here's our VS Code. So instead of having this, we'll have our class, and then we'll have our paragraph. So the class, the paragraph of our class. So yes. So I think they do it based on hierarchy. The one that is inside will come after. The one that is outside will be the first one. Yes. So now let's go back to our code and see if it works. So did it work or not? You can see that this our style is now appearing here. Unlike before that we did p.hero logos, nothing was showing here, but now you can see here it's showing font size. So this medium is still looking big, so let's change it to small and see how it's going to look like. So small. I think this is perfect, right? So let's see. Let's look at the main one. So add some cool logos, and then here also add some cool logos. So I'm thinking the margin here is too big, margin of this button. So where is it? So let me just give it 20 instead of 30. Yeah, so I think this is, let's confirm. Okay, this 22 is looking like it's too big, but I guess we can manage it. Or let's give it 15 then. Yeah, 15. Yeah, so I think it's manageable this way. So any question from what we have done so far, from the start down to this place now that we have entered? Any question or any contribution? So I hope like we are understanding what is going on, what is happening behind the scene, and all of that. Okay, so one last thing before we call it a day, let's make this our button here, and also this our button here. Let's make it the same color, and also the edges, let's make it rounded. And also I think border, you can see that there's no border here, that means they removed the border here. So let's go back to our code. Let's go to our index.html and check our button. So which button do we have? We have this button here, and we also have this button here. So I think we have just two buttons, and from here, from what we have here, you find out that basically the size of the buttons are like the same, the colors too are like the same. So it means that we can just target our buttons, the two buttons, and then apply whatsoever thing we want to apply to them. So here I will use the button tag, and then this button tag, we can give it a padding of let's say for the top and bottom, let's say we'll give it padding of 3 pixels, and then for the left and right, let's say we'll give it a padding of 5 pixels, right? So let's check, let's confirm and check. Okay, so this one is even looking bigger. Hey, this one is looking bigger than this. I don't know why, but yeah. So should we increase it? So okay, let's increase this one to 5. That's the top and bottom, and then let's increase this one to like 8. Let's see. Okay, so I think we have more space here. This one is almost like taking the whole thing, taking the whole space. So let's even inspect. Let's look at the size of both buttons. I'm thinking this one at the top is more bigger. The size is bigger. So this one have size of 68 by 15. So let me check this one. The size of this 68 by 15. Wow, the same size. Okay, I was thinking the sizes are different too. So okay, so instead of even adding the margin here, right, let's add the margin here. So margin 15 pixels and 0. So 15 pixels and 0. So let's see. Okay, 15. Let's reduce it to 10. Yes. So why I did that is because, you know, when we added the padding of the button, it was literally on the edge of this navigation bar, and I don't want that. I want it to at least have space, just like how this one too is having this space. Yes. So, and okay, looking at it, this one safe, our padding, we don't have much padding at the top and the bottom compared to this, but let's leave it this way. So now the next thing is to remove this border. If you look at the buttons here, they don't have border. So the next is to remove the border and then give it a color. So it is our CSS. Of course, we don't need the border. So for border, we'll give it a border of none. So you can see that we no longer have border. That black thing that's surrounding it is no longer there. So the next thing, we also need to give it a color. So we'll give it background color. Let's say which one should I even use? Let me use this bisque. So you can see, okay, no, which one? Okay, I think I see a color similar to something like this. So let me see if I can give it that particular one. Can somebody trace the color? How the color are much? See, let me just pick anyone back so that we'll not spend our entire day looking for color. So let's just use this one. Okay, so now you see that the background color now is a little bit dark, and then the text too is dark. So let's change the text color to white. So to change text color, you use the property color, and then if there's anything you want to do and you forget how to do it, you can see what we did. Just go to Google, ask, and then Google will tell you what to do or how to go about it. All right, so okay, I think this white is better. So the next thing is to make this what are they calling it, this side, the border here, border radius, to be curved. So we'll come here, and then of course the property of that is the border radius. So border radius, let's give it 5 pixels first. So let's try 5 pixels first. Okay, now it's curved, but not as curved as this, the original one. So let's add, instead of 10 pixels, let's see 20 pixels, what 20 pixels will do. Okay, so I think we are now having almost the same thing we are getting here. All right, almost the same time. If you look at the text of the buttons, you find out that the text they are more thick than the normal text. So that one is more of your font weight. Is it font weight or font? Yeah, font weight. Okay, so font weight, let's make it bold. Yeah, so I think is more bolder. This bold is looking too bold though. Let me try 600 and see. Okay, so let me try 400. 600 is looking like a lot. No, this one is not bold at all. So let me try 500. See, let's just use 600. Yes, so I think this is it. So I think we have come to the end of our project. So any question or any contribution or any aluta we no go gree, we no go gree, eh? See any question? The way people don't ask question, I think themselves they fear me. So any question? At least we understand on a basic level how to structure a page, the elements, the section of the page, the elements, the container, and then how to now go further and then style it using CSS to get what you want. So any question? So I think I'll package the entire code, I'll zip it and then send it to the group. All right, so okay, lastly, let's organize our project. All right, so let's create a folder for images, right? And then from there we'll just select our images and then a folder for styles, right? So this folder, let's say we have images, and then we'll create another folder for CSS, right? So for this style or CSS, now we'll take it to this CSS. For these images, which is 1 2 3 4 5 no, sorry, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, we'll take everything inside of image. All right, good. So now here, of course, our website would have scattered because of the movement of everything. So we just have to come and re-put everything. So remember what I told you about a relative path, right? So a relative path is more like you are saying start from the position where I am. So if we do dot slash, now you can see that inside of this location where we are now, where this index.html file is, there's CSS, there's images, there's index.html, there's node. So what we need is CSS, and then we need the style inside of CSS. So next are the images. So for this image, dot slash, we'll go to images and then we'll look for globe. So for search too, dot slash, we go to images and then we'll look for search. Yes. So for Slack too and Google and the rest, we'll do the same, dot slash, images, Slack. For Google too, the same thing, dot slash, images, and then Google. And then for the square logo, dot slash, images, and then where is square logo. So and then finally, this is our business too, dot slash, images, and then our business image. So I think our website should be back. Okay, logo, remaining logo, we forgot. So our logo too, yes. So dot slash, images, and then our logo. Yep. And then we have our website, our web page instead up and running.